Hey everyone, Pastor George here for today's Theolog, and today I have a beef with John Fugelsang, or Fugelsang, I don't know how you say it, alright? I've heard it said both ways, but whatever. This is the problem with our world, this right here. He posted this on Twitter, and he's an actor, comedian guy, if anyone doesn't know who he is. And he posted this. He says, it'll be awkward for the Christian nationalism rapture folk when Jesus comes back and he's a homeless, brown skinned liberal who speaks no English. Now, I'm going to avoid all the political commentary that can come along with this because this is just another example of people using Jesus as a political prop. For those of you who remember my politics class that I did like 2 years ago or whatever, we talked about how you can take Jesus and you can use him for like any political thing that you want. And this is just an example of someone who's doing that, right? So it's not particular to that, but I will say that this is a consistent thing where people are going to be surprised when Jesus comes back and he's this certain way or whatever. But here's the thing is there's a test that I want everyone to do, whether it doesn't matter who's talking about Jesus, is basically you just ask the person or you come to the conclusion about this person. Do they believe Jesus is the Son of God? If so, then you can have a reasonable conversation about what Jesus demands from his followers and what that looks like when it comes to political things, right? If they do not, then you don't have to care what they have to say about Jesus, okay? And what he would think, because they, at the end of the day, don't really care that much, from my experience, and this is a good example of what Jesus has to say about anything. So, I would say that John Fugelsang might be shocked that Jesus shows up and has pretty, conservative views on sexuality or something like that, right? I think that you could easily make a game out of doing this sort of thing. But here's what annoyed me about this the most. All of that aside is the thing at the end, right? Where it says, who speaks no English. So the reason that this is such a stupid thing to say is because if you're just going to say that Jesus was just some guy, right? And that he is plucked up out of the first century and brought here, and he's not the Son of God, right? Not divine at all, then of course he's not going to speak English, right? Because English wasn't around as a language at that time, right? Not even Old English. That was a later thing. So yeah, Jesus didn't speak English if you think that he's just some dude. But if you think that Jesus is the Son of God, can he speak English? And the answer is yes, he can, right? Because he's divine. He can speak any language. He could speak Old English. He could speak Shakespearean English if he wanted to. He could speak modern English if he wants to. He can speak English the way that people will be speaking it 400 years from now. Why? Because he's God. And if you're going to say that there's a second coming or a rapture when Jesus will come back, then you're already saying that he's divine, right? And so it blows my mind that like people will try to do these gotcha arguments and then be like, gotcha, you didn't think he looked this way, thought this way, or spoke this way, but instead he does, when in actuality you kind of just sink your boat. And this is why it's really, really important to, like, I just use this as an example, but I would never use this, or if someone brought this to me as an argument, I would just be like, well, this guy doesn't believe in Jesus, so, like, I don't really care what he has to say about what Jesus would believe and think, because it's evident that he's kind of contradicting himself in this own statement. Now, again, this has nothing to do with the politics that were mentioned here. All it has to do with is this idea that when you engage with people who are going to talk about Jesus and what Jesus wants politically, make sure that they actually believe Jesus is who he says he is, or else anything that he says isn't going to make sense. So just wanted to share that with all of you today. Another Twitter rage moment for me, as always, which happen at least 10 times a day. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and I will see you tomorrow for our Bible study recap. Peace out.